Good afternoon and welcome, everybody. This would be the Jeff Cameron Show. Happy Redemption Thursday to you. I know we're an hour late. What are you going to do? Postseason baseball. Braves moving on. Congrats, Braves fans. I know you're happy. Don't get to celebrate playoff victories very frequently. But you do today, and you're moving on. That's fun, and we're happy to have been able to bring it to you. I'm Jeff. That's Tom. We're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. Hello, YouTubers. You can email the show if you like, jcs at 979espnradio.com. Twitter, it's at jcameron.show. If you miss the Jeff Cameron Show, well, we'll post it to Apple Podcasts. All guests appear via the Phone Hero hotline. Phone Hero specializing in iPhone and iPad repair. 2 locations, 2915 Cary Forest Parkway and 833 West Gain Street. Online at phoneherotlh.com. Yeah, you know, it's Redemption Thursday. We don't like to miss, but contracts are contracts, and we didn't take you to the Braves postgame yesterday, really, so we had to kind of run it today and get the recap of the win there. Braves pitch exceptionally well, to say the least, through the 2 days. Reds should really kind of be ashamed of themselves for the approach, I might note, setting records left and right for not making contact with the baseball. Good Lord almighty.
And sit tight with us, because next week the Braves play Tuesday through Friday, potentially. Weekday schedule. We don't know, since they're going to be in Arlington, and there's 2 NL series and 2 AL series going simultaneously in a couple of days. Don't know the TV times yet, which means it affects radio schedules. But I know everybody wants to hear about the game of the century, Notre Dame and Florida State, once again, the game of the 21st century. We'll have something for you. We just don't know what the schedule is just yet.
Got to admit, I'm skeptical as to whether that game will be played. I'm of the mindset I don't think Florida State Notre Dame is going to be played. Nobody's going to lose sleep if it's not. That's not a good matchup. That's a problematic matchup for Florida State. So if Notre Dame is COVID-ridden, as they currently are, and their players are undisciplined and continue to bring COVID into the locker room, then, you know, that game just won't be played. Happens. I wish everybody good health. But, you know, that's a messed up situation right now.
Is Mercer available?
Oh, the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take a win. Mercer, they don't offer much, do they? They have a football program?
Probably have a quarterback who's going to be starting for the Steelers.
Later today, next hour, our good buddy Joey St. Germain going to join us, DSG on DFS, that's right. As Downs and St. Germain Research bring you the latest for daily fantasy sports, as well as some picks this weekend. It is Redemption Thursday. I should give you my games. It's interesting. I don't know. It's a difficult time right now picking games. I did have a good week in the pros last week. I told you I thought I would. I feel better about those games than I do college football right now. You know, you think about it just out loud. Kansas State knocks off Oklahoma. Well, Kansas State lost to Arkansas State. Or was it Central Arkansas? Somebody like that. It was somebody terrible like that. Texas Tech, who nearly knocked off Texas, if I'm not mistaken, was in that war with Houston Baptist, in which both teams Houston Baptist. So
right.
Really, you're just seeing from week to week, it's very difficult to figure out what's what.
Right, exactly, and that's why I had hope last night at kickoff of our game a little after 7:30, and it's just we're not in that class. We can't play the transitive game. We can't. You know, where it's like, well, my goodness, Miami looked good against this team, but Florida State gave them a run for their money.
Right.
No, we lost to Georgia Tech and Miami. That's right.
Yeah, there's no I would like to believe you're going to play well or better and win the game against Jacksonville State. You're heavily favored to do it. I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole. I don't know what we're going to look like. I will say this. I keep hearing again that all the quarterbacks are going to play this weekend. So that is there you go. There's your little morsel of good. There you go.
That sounds like a lead right there. What was that?
That basically Florida State's going to play their quarterbacks, plural.
The quartet.
Yes. Now, I think the only question mark is whether or not, and it's the one guy that everybody wants to see, but I think the only question mark is Chuba Purdy. You do have to be careful here. I mean, you're coming off of an injury. It's a nothing season. The season doesn't count really. It's an asterisk is what it is. It's really nothing at this point. You do not risk getting a guy hurt if he's not fully healed and prepared to play, because what is going to be gained there? You have so much to lose. So if he was able to rep this week and get, even if it's just a couple of packages that they have for him to run out there, that's fine. But you better know, because collarbones are tricky, you better know that he is good to go.
Well, the whispers were that he was close last week.
He was throwing the ball. He
to
was
being
dressed.
capable of,
right.
It's like if it was a playoff game or some such thing, right?
You'd go after it, right?
But if he's cleared, then he's going to play. That's great news. That's great news because that means if
Tatum played too. I'm excited to watch that young man. I mean, I thought that there were moments when he wasn't overwhelmed where he looked good.
Yeah.
It's those guys have a chance to get the ball out on time. That'd be great. It'd be something to see the ball come out on time.
Well, we touched on this briefly yesterday, but the number one thing to look for in Tate's game, he told you. He gave you the intel.
Yeah.
His eye level drops. Okay, let's see where his eyes are.
Young man, you got to learn not to do that. Don't say that. Don't tell people things like that. It's like Sam Darnold on the sideline telling the world that he's seeing ghosts.
That's not fair. That one's on ESPN.
Well, don't do it. Just don't utter that aloud. Why would you even say that with teammates around you? I don't do that.
I think he was alone on the bench.
No, he was talking to somebody. He didn't just say, "I'm seeing ghosts out there to the sky." He was talking to
the ghosts.
No.
I see you. I see you.
I see you even when you're not there. I see you. TCU plus 11.5 against Tejas. I'll do it. They're always game against Texas.
I can feel it all the way down in my plums.
Oklahoma State, I'm going to keep riding that train over Kansas because Kansas sucks. Charlotte getting 6.5 against Florida Atlantic. I mean, this is a two fingers to my eyes game. Georgia minus 6.5 against Auburn. I love that Georgia defense, and I'll stick with it. I think that obviously they had to figure some things out there at quarterback in the game against Arkansas. They did. They ended up dominating the fourth quarter because they made a change, and that helps.
I can feel it all the way down in my plums.
A lot of points if you're taking Virginia getting 4 touchdowns. Now, I will warn you, some books have it at 27.5. Don't touch that. Take the 28.5 if you can find it. That's a number.
That's a big one.
That's a number. You're going to need that point. And Oklahoma giving 7 to Iowa State. I think they come back angry. Iowa State's defense has disappointed me. And in the NFL, the 3 teams that I like, New England, they're getting 7 points. I think they'll play well in that game. Carolina getting 3.5 just because their game. Seattle minus 6.5 against the Dolphins. Very public play. A lot of people will tell you otherwise. But I'll go ahead and give less than a touchdown to Miami, who looks lost, and Jacksonville plus 3.
So he's our quarterback, and yet still when you say I like New England, the first image that pops up in my head is Tom Brady in their uniform, not the Buccaneers uniform. It's still going to take some getting used to.
Yeah, I don't know that when you utter the name Tom Brady, I don't know that there will be too many people that ever envision him in a Bucs uniform. He won't be there long. Now, maybe if he wins a Super Bowl.
Right. It's just an inefficiency of you're talking about pick New England this week. I'm like, all right, how's that game going to look? Well, Brady is going to – well, no, he's not because Brady's going to be playing the Chargers.
New England's at Kansas City, for those that don't know. Sorry, I should give you who the teams are playing. Jacksonville's at Cincinnati, and they're catching points. That strikes me as incredibly odd. Jacksonville's played close games. They're not horrible. They're not good. But, I mean, Cincinnati's offensive line may be one of the worst I've ever seen. Gave up 8 sacks last week. I'll take Jacksonville in the points on principle there. And then, again, what I mentioned with New England, I've been impressed. I didn't know that. I thought that their offense would be a huge liability, and they lost so many guys who opted out on defense. I thought, what are they going to do? They've played a good brand of football, man. Freaking Bill Belichick. They're prepared, and Cam's playing well.
Yeah, his arm is live. It is. It's still got the wind-up and a little hitch, to get over the shoulder pad.
But it's got some spin to it now.
It does.
He's finally throwing the football,
yes,
man.
Sir.
And Arizona, Carolina, after what I just saw from Arizona, Carolina's game, you're getting a hook there, 3.5. I'll do that. I'll hang in there with that at home. I mean, the home fields don't matter as much, but they're not going out to Arizona. I'll give them a chance.
It's a likable team. Go figure.
I can't get there with you, Tom. I understand what you're saying. I know you like the way they fight. You like the way that they put the pieces together. True, they're pretty well coached. Teddy Bridgewater is a very likable kid. He is. I mean, I really hate that his career got derailed with that injury. He's more than serviceable. He's north of average. I'll give you that. I hate Carolina in an unhealthy way. I just really do. I feel like they tormented us for so long. They really did. I just can't stand them. So they can go to hell.
Yeah, if you picture Jake Delhomme, I put him on a dartboard, right? And that's the whole era where it was him and Steve Smith, and every week. I mean, because
and also
hold
those
down
running backs,
35 points.
Well, and those running backs, man, they were so physical and they ran over us. But I tell you, who must get the chills.
Stephen Davis?
Oh. They had who was the kid out of Memphis? I mean, they had 3 guys that would
Foster,
run over you.
They had Davis.
Yeah, they had 3 guys that would run over you forever.
Jonathan Stewart.
Oh, yeah. I hate it. I don't even like talking about it. Ronde Barber never wants to see them again. As good as Rondé Barber was for his career, he got run over by them all the time.
That's the one thing. Our friends down at Joe Bucks fan do a lot of comparing Winfield to Barber, and I get it from the Nichols. You talk about blitzing off the edge, but
Winfield
wouldn't get run over like that.
Those guys could. D'Angelo Williams, didn't they have him too?
Yeah,
he ran over people too. They had what the hell? They had like 5 running backs over the course of 15
Winfield
years.
might lose in a one-on-one situation there, but he wouldn't get,
No, he wouldn't just get trampled.
It wouldn't be Ed Reed against Greg Jones.
That was Sean Taylor against Greg Jones.
Oh, sorry, it's Sean Taylor?
Sean Taylor who got run over by Greg Jones. I mean, in a way that is tragic. Yes.
I'm glad you corrected me to make sure that you let it be known that it was Sean
Taylor who got run over by Greg Jones in a violent manner. It was... I thought he could have been flagged for unduly harming that man. It was, I mean, Miami fans hold him on a pedestal in a way that's a little unhealthy, and that video's out there. Just pull up the YouTube feed. Then again, Greg Jones did that to an awful lot of people. It's
the docket, right?
He did it to everybody. Now, he did it to Dockett with his hands.
Picked him up and threw him.
Well, yeah, and he hit him in the face.
It's unbelievable.
Greg was not to be trifled with.
Over a table?
Yeah, imagine watching that fight.
But imagine watching.
That's two heavyweights.
I've seen professional wrestling, but that's professional wrestling. It's not a football player who's a running back is capable of doing that.
And it wasn't like Darnell was soft.
No,
but that's who Greg Jones was.
Like he was $150.
I wanted to be a fly on the wall as that starts to develop, and you realize like they're exchanging words like, okay, we got heavyweights, boys.
You'd want to be on a fly on the wall of the adjacent room.
I just want to know.
That feels dangerous for your own safety. You're like, I'm going to get caught up in the wash here.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the one going to the hospital. Neither of these two titans.
When that thing began, when that got out later on, there are a bunch of different versions of the story, but they all kind of add up to the same thing, which is Greg Jones beat his ass. And that seems to be universally agreed upon. To what degree and what all that, those arguments are out there, but that he dominated the fight is not in question. And I couldn't believe it because Darnell is a little bit crazy,
and unafraid,
big, mean,
weird, crazy. Right?
Yeah, like not the guy you would think you'd want to fight. And Greg's like, "What's up? Let's go." Nope, not getting involved in that. But I get it. His coach is talking about there's magic. Don't do that to the kid. I find myself rooting for that guy more than I do most rookies. I do. I like him. He had the right balance of what for.
You also liked Michael Pitt's character in Boardwalk Empire, and he resembles Michael Pitt.
Well, his character, yes. The horror story is about the man who plays him, Michael Pitt Jr., who apparently was a horse's ass on the set to the point where they killed him off in the show because he was impossible to deal with.
Even though he was supposed to be
the
center of the whole thing.
Yeah. Actually, when you think about it, that's a hell of a right turn to make and salvage that series to the point where it's not ruined until the last season and the last 4 episodes.
Oh, you go get, what's his name, to be the villain in number 2, season 2, Bonnie, that guy.
Oh.
And then you get Dr. Narcisse, who was amazing. But
Narcisse was special.
It crashed and burned after that. Well, that guy spun off and did a bunch of stuff, including Westworld and now IBM commercials.
I was just going to say, now he's just frequently in IBM commercials.
Welcome to the cloud.
White Sox 3, A's nothing, top of the third. We shall see. That series is tied at a game apiece. The Braves win earlier today. If you're just tuning in, congratulations to the Bravos. They take it 5-0 over the Reds. Thanks for playing, Cincinnati. 0 runs in 22 innings, 23 innings of baseball.
Yeah, you and I scored as many runs as the Reds did.
That's hard to imagine, man. But that's what happens when you don't have an approach that sees you move guys over, bother to no shortening up, put the bat on the ball in crucial situations. No, we're just going to be steady swinging for the fences and strike out on the regular.
Those games were the listening is good because the Braves radio network, the guys are all really talented at describing the game. We said this yesterday, but they're tough to listen to because it's a strikeout here, strikeout there. I mean, how about a line out? How about a double play? How about you strand some people on base? So many strikeouts these last 2 days.
Baseball's, again, they got a problem. I still fundamentally love the game, but they're going to have to figure some things out. I don't know what you do. I don't know if it's John Smoltz's suggestion that you move the mound back even an inch. A fraction of a second makes all the difference in the world because you got so many people throwing 100 miles per hour now that they just cannot catch up. I don't know. Do you ban the shift? Do you do think universal DH generates offense? But I'm talking about just sheer contact with the ball. I mean, you have just that stat I told you today, and I don't know if I've said this. Well, I couldn't have said it before because I don't think we were on the air when I saw it. The Reds and Braves combined for more Ks in yesterday's game, 37. 37 strikeouts in yesterday's game, not today. But
this is our phone conversation from this morning, yes.
More strikeouts in that one playoff game than the Reds-Yankees had in the entire 1976 World Series combined. So you're just talking about a fundamental shift in the way the game's played, and I get it. I'm not stuck in the past. I understand it. But, man, that is lopsided the wrong way. It's too far the other way. And
it's boring.
That's right. That's right. And I've resisted that because that's what people loved. They've said that about baseball for eons, even when it wasn't. That was the criticism from most of the neophytes and people who don't understand the game. That was their criticism. They didn't understand when guys would subtly shift just before a pitch or what people were doing to set guys up or understanding the game within the game. And I always push back on that because it's just a lazy critique. But they're not wrong now when they say it. They're not wrong now because you watched 37 strikeouts in one game yesterday. 37.
City League softball. Everybody's trying to tee off.
Yeah. I don't know.
With the shifts and everything.
Well, we'll see. I mean, listen, not every game is being played that way, but a lot of them are. And I am curious to see what kind of suggestions are made in the offseason.
Well, and the baseline, too, for action plays. Like the Astros were the great light of action because they'd swing. You know why? Because they knew what pitch was coming.
They knew it was coming, right.
The only reason.
Well, it isn't not a shocking coincidence, right, that all of their batting averages fell off the cliff this year and that many of them had the worst year of their career.
Still got out of Minneapolis, didn't they?
Everybody does. Everybody does. And they did so after having a 9-27 record or whatever it was on the road this year. Strolled right into Minnesota. All right. Perfect matchup. You could have said that about anybody. The Pirates might have strolled into Minnesota and won that series. It's ridiculous. Love with the drummer. She fell in love with the drummer. She fell 79 ESPN Radio. Diego Aguilera is a late-blooming wrestler who made his way from Texas to Buena Vista University in Storm Lake, Iowa. And he's working at a Walmart. He was starting his first day of work at the Walmart in Storm Lake. Tough times. Tough times. Working at the Walmart in Storm Lake, Iowa.
That's actually known as the capital of Storm Lake, Iowa, right?
The Walmart.
I would think so.
He was being trained as an associate in the produce department. All right, produce department's solid. If you're going to work there, the produce is solid.
Stay on the perimeter of all grocery stores and Walmarts, and you'll do better for yourself.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he's being trained there. A colleague in her 60s is training him. They stock shelves late into the night. Retired to the break room. And actually, I said it was a woman. It's a man. He clutched his chest and slumped over a box of bananas. And Aguilera saw it and saved the man's life. He was having a heart attack. He checked the man's pulse. He felt it slow down. He knew it was about to be over. He immediately jumped on and began to compress. Other people came in the room. The guy regained consciousness, which would have kind of freaked me out, by the way. I was reading that story, and I was like, oh, that's good. Oh, good for you. Good. What? He regained consciousness? Which is what you would want. But I think the first time somebody went, hey, what's going on? I'd be like, whoa.
Yep. It's like the Undertaker opening his eyes.
Yeah,
like,
you're like, whoa.
Jeez.
But this is cool. The guy who kind of is in and out, he's trying to fight death, and Aguilera's pumping on his chest. He said that every time he felt the man to begin to fade, he'd ask him about his kids. Their names, their ages, where they were, how they were doing, and they brought the guy back. Dude, that's phenomenal.
Well, hey, man, you didn't have to sneak up with a little Rinaldi at the end. That got human real fast. Like, it would sound like a cool story, like a wild story, and a human interest one. But then I feel like I'm on game day. That's very sad.
I gotta give this kid credit, man. He's trying to gain a scholarship there in Iowa. He's a Buena Vista wrestler, and I just kind of casually read that story this morning, just like I'm doing now, and I went, oh well, man, that's quick thinking right there. I'm gonna reach down into your gut. I'm gonna find what matters to you. I know you got kids. Listen here, pal. You can't go off into that good night. Look at me. How's Steve? How's Hank? How's Susan? How are they doing?
Sounds like a real hoot every Thanksgiving with that family.
I know. But he says about why he did it in terms of understanding to ask the right question was, well, I thought, what could I do? What could I do that would scare him upright? What could I do to keep him moving and thinking? That's smart.
So if you were somebody who was a big donor to the university at Big Storm or Storm Lake, Iowa, whatever it is, you'd go find a way to get this kid a scholarly, wouldn't you?
Well, I went on to read that he has a national letter of intent that he signed to Buena Vista University. Yes, I think he clearly needs money. I mean, he's working the freaking overnights at the produce department of Walmart. Somebody's got to help out. I think he's on a partial scholarly. Yes, somebody needs to make that full. Somebody needs to ensure. Yes, I would think so.
If I'm like the biggest alum of Buena Vista, and I'd take that $500 I have, and I'd say, here you go. Here's a full scholarly for you.
I just think it's really cool. You don't read stories like this where people think to ask them about their kids. That's solid. It's not quite Rinaldi. He didn't die.
No, but that's just really heartfelt because you know what happened? Immediately I thought if my dad was asked those questions.
Oh, yeah.
That's what happened.
Hey, so speaking of which, Tom and I, we warn each other.
So I'm taking snarky jabs to kind of rally the troops a little bit and get out of here. It's not because of anything else.
It's a short segment. That's why I went with that story. But really quick, I just want to say this. Tom and I have this game now, and, I'm 49 with kids. Every year you get older, the more sensitive you get, the more prone you are to be emotional. I joked at myself. I told you, we had a promo that ran a long time ago where I talked about I get emotional when the light turns green. It's just like it happens as you get older. And every year, right around this time, as we get closer and closer to Thanksgiving, those Publix commercials start running where the families are around the table and you're like, oh, you got me again, Publix. And I knew what was coming.
Publix,
They get you every time.
I know the ad agency, too. It's 22 squared. They can go to hell. That ad agency. That is absurd.
They're really good at it.
That is absurd.
And we know it's happening.
I want to know how many hugs they have generated or how many phone calls they have generated from that ad.
They might have brought...
Not to Publix.
Severed relationships have been forged back together because of their ads.
That's what I'm saying. It's De Niro with the Merrill Lynch commercial.
It's really good. They get you. Well,
Take me fishing.
Oh, Jesus. Well, so to my point, Tom and I now warn each other because there are any number of uplifting, Instagram / and I know Twitter is a cesspool, but there are some dedicated to some great moments too. We'll occasionally send each other like, hey, check this out. But we've gotten good enough that if we send it to the other at work that we go, you may want to wait on this one. Or, hey, I don't know if you want to read this here. Just save it, but pretty cool story.
The Brazilian pianist. Oh, my goodness.
He's weeping as he plays the piano. I'm like, what are we doing?
So here's the story.
I got caught completely off guard. You guys can find it. It's on Instagram, Twitter, and
Rex Chapman has it, too, and he always finds those things to be able to boost his profile, but he does good things.
He does good things.
Yeah. So this guy, he's been unable to play the piano, the instrument that he was very, very
His hands
good
don't
at.
work. Tommy lost his hands. What are you going to do?
Can't use his hands anymore, but thanks to technology, they put some bionic whatever things over his hands, and he's able to use his own fingers to play the ivory keys once more, and he weeps.
Oh, yeah. No, he starts fine, but he gets a little bit into the song, and then it's just he's weeping.
He's remembering.
Oh, yeah. No, I know. Well, I tell you, it's like that bucket of baseballs with the grandpa writing the note about if anybody needs these balls.
I never looked at that. There's no way. There's no way. Especially, you shook me up saying that a guy saved another dude that I don't know anything about.
Yeah.
And he said, what are your kids' names? I'm shaken by that. I'm a standing eight.
You're still a little on edge.
Because I can see an image that I really don't want to see.
Yeah.
So,
It's a tough one, man. It's Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. I really hope I'm wrong, but man, it's hard to find a way after watching the NBA Finals last night. I'm overreacting to a game. But damn it, man, I got to tell you, do you realize at one point, I know you watched it, the Lakers went on a 73-22 run.
Don't worry. We can just transfer money from your account into a portfolio with your son, and it's gone!
73-22.
Don't worry. We can just transfer money from your account into a portfolio with your son, and it's gone!
I don't remember seeing that. I'm sure it's happened, and it's a big, it's a long period of time to analyze that number because they're losing by 13 in the first quarter, and you're like, all right, yeah, here we go, Miami. So a couple of things as it relates to sporting people. A lot of people had the Heat on plus money to win the first quarter because there's this statistic that made its way around yesterday all during the day, and that is that LeBron James, who lives in the finals, I might add, just lives in the finals, for all of his finals appearances and all the, the wins and the successes and even the failures, for whatever reason, he loses game one. It's just they come out and look shaky usually. LeBron James, even in years where they've won it.
Yeah, every year except for, I believe, 2011. Yeah. Every other time they've lost, no matter what team he's on.
So, I don't know if that's just the pressure of trying to live up to the expectations or whatever it is, but that number made its way around yesterday that he loses game one. It's unfair. He's on teams. There are other players, but they lose game one. And then also, invariably, one of the reasons that leads to all those losses in game one finals appearances is that they start off in the first quarter disastrously, usually getting outscored by a big number, and it just becomes too much to overcome. So bettors are always looking for an edge, and they combo those two stats, that on average he loses the first quarter by like 11 points, and they lose the game, period. And so you could get the Heat at all kinds of great plus money just to win the quarter. And these days you can bet on everything. So a lot of people jumped on, an article I was reading, jumped on the Heat for the first quarter. And I think they were getting, that's what it was. You just had to pick them straight up to win the quarter. So you weren't getting anything. It's plus money to take the Heat to win the first quarter. You're up 13 with like 4.5 to play in the quarter. You lose the quarter. It was 31-28. They lost the quarter after being up by 13 with like 4 minutes left in the quarter.
Well, can you imagine the action, too, of Heat fans in the first quarter pounding live bets, live wagers?
Oh, my God.
Being up by 23. You would have to hedge after that. I mean, you'd have to,
you'd start hedging big
on
time.
The Lakers. Like, hedge. They only hit 11 threes a game. They've already got 11 at the break. I don't think this is going to slow down anytime soon. Oh, look at the presence down in the paint. They can do whatever the hell they want. I'm going to hedge and hedge some more.
They hit 15 threes, which is a Los Angeles Lakers record. They've been playing basketball a long time. Had some really good teams.
Well, those ones in the 90s could hit like 2 a game, but yes.
Well, I'm saying even the modern teams that Kobe was on had, they had some runs, but 15 is a record for them in a finals game. And then in addition, it's a good point you bring up, man. It's a lot of times, and Spoelstra's a really good coach, but a lot of times you watch a game one play out, and it's about the adjustments, and you say, okay, well, we really got hurt here. But I think where he's got to be nervous is that Dragic gets hurt, and I don't know, he's got a torn muscle in his foot. I don't know that you're going to.
And Bam is doubtful with the neck strain.
Bam's hurt too.
That's it.
Well, it's over, if they don't play, or if Bam doesn't play, it's really over. But because there's enough shooters that you can get past Dragic being out. But one thing I would say, when he goes back and looks at that, and you don't have a lot of time, but when you do, they didn't win any facet of the game of basketball. They weren't strong enough down low. The Lakers shot it better, spaced better, transitioned better, rebounded better. They did everything better. And the Heat, I think, Legler does a good job on this when they go to analysts after the game.
It's nice when they use him.
He's really good. Yeah. He's really good at what he does. I'm going to steal this from him because I was watching this late last night. And he brought up, they were doing the ISO stuff where they LeBron just bully balled his way into the paint whenever he wanted. And, of course, there's a collapse, which is going to lead to wide open looks. So even poor shooters, when given wide open looks, Rondo and those guys are going to hit a shot, especially a baseline three squared up with nobody around them, which happened more than once last night. But they showed the Lakers running offense and the spacing to where they set, just with an extra pass, they set everything up to get anything they wanted, and he showed that even when the Heat did rotate properly and did everything they wanted to do defensively, the Lakers still got the look that they wanted time and again. Everybody played unselfish. Everybody played smart. Davis was – I mean, there's just everything about what they did. Now, they probably can't play to that level every night because you could argue it was the best game they've played yet in the bubble, which might be true.
Yeah.
But, boy, there are a lot of things there to try to take away, and if you don't win in any facet, it's a comeuppance.
But there's something to be said for that, too, that a group like the Lakers, which are veteran-laden, right, it's going to take them a while to get back up to speed. Like, you don't look at October or November results of the hockey regular season or the NBA regular season, and you don't put any weight in that. It's like it takes them a while to gear up, especially now with load management. But, you know, if you're in the bubble for a couple of weeks playing meaningless games, remember that everybody was criticizing the Lakers because they didn't really care. Once their seeding was secured, they didn't care. Well, it takes a while to be playing your best. You were talking about this yesterday when it comes to the quality of baseball that we're going to see in the postseason.
Yeah, it should be good.
Is it more randomized with the 3 gamers to start? Sure, absolutely. And somebody's going to get cost a spot that they should have had. And they should have been in the best of 5 in the DS, but it's just not that way. But you don't have anybody who's tired.
The Twins come to mind.
Not everybody's overtired. You know, like everybody is only getting into form. They're rounding into form. The arms are loose, and the bats are ready to go. The dog days haven't arrived. In their body clock terms, same thing for the NBA. I mean, I think that's got to be part of it. That the Lakers are just rounding into what they would call midseason form.
Yeah, everybody's pretty comfortable. And Rondo just, elevates his games in these situations really well. He's an enigma, man. You watch him in a regular season, you're like, why would anybody want that guy on your team? You watch him in the postseason. You watch when it matters, when he's locked in. And, they want him to shoot the threes that he shot. They want him, especially that one, the one that is actually contested. He hits middle of the third, I think it is. It's like that seemed to summarize as you were watching, like, well, they did everything they wanted to do there, meaning the Heat. And
kudos for you to make it through the middle of the third. The call to sleep, and then the sleep that game was putting me into, the combination, I couldn't do it. You saw it. It was, this is it. This is over.
Oh, I just wanted to, yeah, it was over. I just wanted to see if there was more fight, and I wanted to see if there were adjustments because Spoelstra's so good. I thought, okay, well, I wonder what he's going to do now. Like, what? Because he is good, and I want to see, what do you do? Because I didn't know the way out. I mean, I was like, it was like us talking about the matchup against Miami on the offensive and defensive lines. We're like, how do you scheme around losing every single individual matchup? Like, this is a toughie here. This is a problem. I can't just make it go away that I can't block a single one of those dudes. And obviously we didn't. But I was watching that last night. I was like, man, who's going to take that from LeBron? Who's going to take that away from him?
You would need Bam to age in basketball years about 2 to 3 years before the end of the series, and if he's not available for game 2, then whatever. Miami's going to beat him 4 out of 5 to win the end. No way. No, because they're down 0-2. The moment that those two guys don't play, especially Bam, they're down 0-2.
Yeah, you can jump on the series price now and really make some money. You get plus money on all of it.
This is such a Thursday.
you get if you want to jump on whether or not it goes 5 or less, it's all kinds of plus money going your way. I mean, if you really want to make some money, bet the sweep.
Okay.
You can.
We've talked maybe 3 segments worth of NBA for the last month, and you're like, now, if you want some value on the finals, when we dip our toes back in, it's into one kind of water, the water of profit.
Well, I mean, it's not like a regional team is playing, Miami's playing, I get it, but you know what I mean. It's not like we're watching, I don't know, an East Coast finals. I'm just kind of talking about, it's like, I don't know. Everybody knew the Lakers and the Clippers were the two teams. We were like, okay, one of those two teams is going to the finals. Fair enough. And then we were waiting. Miami was the great story. That became the great story.
Yeah, they're fun.
And we got geared up for that. And then it's like grand opening, grand closing. When you watch that last night, you're like, well,
That was a good 8 minutes.
you're like, well, the fun is over.
Yeah.
The fun is over. Well, how now can I stay invested in the NBA Finals? Oh, I know a way. That's all. That's how that happens.
That would be like if, I don't know, Falcons and Broncos back in 98. Like if the Falcons take the opening kickoff for a touchdown, you're like, that's awesome. Good for you. Well, here's a real example. Ted Ginn against Florida.
Oh, against Florida. Yeah, to the house.
To the house.
Mhm.
Then he's hurt. Game's over. Right then, right there. Any chance they had, that offense goes from dynamic down the field to nothing.
Celebrating. Yeah, and it's hard to blame somebody for celebrating a touchdown, but my man jumps on his shoulders and twists him to the ground. You're like, dude, what are we doing here?
Don't worry. We can just transfer money from your account into a portfolio with your and it's gone.
Yeah. I got to tell you, I was really excited, and now I'm not going to lose sleep over it. We got a lot of other sports. I mean, Braves win today, and that's awesome for Braves fans, and obviously people in this area are excited.
I'm happy for the listeners here, too, man. I mean, I have my jokes.
Yeah.
This is a once-in-a-generation occurrence, and that's fine, and it's true. But, hey, next week, Tuesday through Friday.
Got baseball.
Saturday, if necessary. You got a best of right here. Right here.
No, and I love postseason baseball, and I'll watch, and I'm excited about it. And in addition to all of that, we got our Lightning to win a Stanley Cup, so I'm kind of relaxing. I know what to expect from Florida State every week, not in the sense that I know who they're going to play and the reps are going to change and all of that, but in the sense that should lower the bar of anticipation for victory most days. Not this weekend. What do you think? Let me ask you this. If Florida State, and they're 26.5-point favorites?
Mm-hmm. Is that so?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I'm not touching the game, Tom. But what if they went out and lost to Jacksonville State? Could it get lower? Is that more? Is that worse? Are we done? Have we reached rock bottom, or is that rock bottom?
Oh, there's still more. There's still more disappointment. Yeah, there's always more. There's always more. I
don't know, man. I don't know.
If these last few years have taught me anything, is that there's more. We could have lost those 2 games to FCS
Louisiana
or lesser
Monroe,
than absolutely.
Yeah.
There's always more to be done, good and bad.
I don't think you can get much lower than the 50 burger from Miami in front of the nation.
You could have a 1-win season or a 0-win season. That's pretty low. If you lose this weekend, but you're giving me the hypothetical.
Yeah.
If they lost this weekend,
I still like them against NC State.
Go for a bagel for the year. So there is lower. I'm just to prove the existence of it. There it is.
They'd have to lose this weekend. If they would have to lose this weekend then that would be lower.
Because then you're saying, not Duke to close the year, not like this.
They've never beaten us.
Right. Wouldn't that be the capper? Although then again, if you have concerns in South Bend, then maybe that game gets flexed behind. But, I mean, still, what's the difference?
Well, listen, I want to propose something here. If this Notre Dame game is not played on the 10th, we just don't have the time to make it up. There's just no room to make it up. We're going to have to just not play that game. I think that it'd be best for both schools to agree that there's just no time to make that game up. You guys get yourself together out there in South Bend. We know it's getting into the witching hour out there. The days are dark and short and cold. We don't need to be worried about football.
We accept your forfeit. We accept the terms of your forfeit.
Nice win over Notre Dame. Nice win.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't keep your kids together. They're out and about partying every night, getting COVID.
Don't see why. Don't see how. It's a dump of a town.
That's why they have to get out. They're just
unless they went to Chicago or something.
They're just stewing. Final hour, fourth cup, and stay with. Jeff Cameron Show, at least for today. It is, of course, a Redemption Thursday. Hope you're well. I'm Jeff, that's Tom. Online, ESPNTallahassee.com. That's where you're going to listen live, either streaming free. Always, if you miss anything, go back, get caught up. We'll post all 3 hours of the program. Well, you know, we've been bastardized lately with the baseball schedule being what it is. But the show content, how about that? All of the show content will be up on Apple Podcasts.
If it's on the air, it's going to be on your podcast player.
You'll find it. You can email the show if you like, JCS at 979 ESPNradio.com. Find me on Twitter at JCameronShow. The show's on YouTube as well. Hello, YouTubers. Hope this finds you doing well. You know, I got to tell you, man, I'm excited about the game on Saturday. I know that a lot of people are not, but I am, because there's constant whispers that, at least from the people I talk to, they're going to play all the quarterbacks. So, okay, that gives me reason, and it's really been the topic du jour this week on the show more than anything else. Is kind of like, well, what's the incentive other than it's your team to watch? And I think it's to see growth. I think it's to see this team building on something. I think it's to see the young players and maybe, week to week, there's another guy that provides a little light, a little glimmer of hope, a little something to latch on to make you believe that by season's end, you have something to feel better about. Right now, we don't. I will say this. It's looking more and more like, to me anyhow, and we sit here on a Thursday, that I don't think that Notre Dame game is going to be played, and there's a little glimmer of hope, right? That's,
Is that so? You don't think so?
18 players. Let them have another day where they can't. I mean, they're not even practicing.
Yeah.
They can't even practice, Tom. So imagine now you're not practicing, and let it get to next week on Wednesday. They still haven't practiced. That'll be that. That'll be a wrap.
Well, for this weekend's purposes, if you tell me that all 4 quarterbacks are going to play, like if that's just the whispers you hear, and that's the assumption I can take, as a fan, right? Yeah. Then if James starts, it's not that big a deal. Right? Like, if you see him for the first drive, you're like, all right, I know I'm going to get reps for everybody else. Like, I'd rather have the other reps, all of the reps, go to the freshmen, like every single one. But if you tell me that it's going to be everybody, okay, because the things I've seen in going back and watching some of our offensive footage, which can be a difficult process.
That there are some things there, Tom.
If it's run in time, on time, and you're looking in the right place, yeah, there are some things. And more than looking in the right place, because sometimes the defense confuses you and your 1 through 3 are actually covered, and maybe it is your 4th or your 5th option are wide open, and you don't get there. Offensive line sucks. That can happen. But if it's run on time, some things are open. And we know that even from the Georgia Tech game. You don't have to look at the Miami film to know that as that game went along, the throws got later and later and later, from a half step to a full step plus. And that makes all the difference in an offense like this.
Yeah, and you say that, you can expound further, because I'm about to have a coughing fit.
Well, that's fine. I mean, it makes me feel sick to my stomach, too, and sometimes I retch when I watch some of the film of this quarterback play that we've seen over the last couple of years. But the truth of it is, I mean, you could see it. Receivers breaking open, they're out of their breaks. It's the opposite of anticipation. They're waiting and waiting and waiting. Next thing you know, you lead them into a situation where they're going to get their ribs caved in.
Yeah.
And so now there's less trust with the receivers. Just, you know what? If I want guys having second thoughts about our quarterback, let the freshman be the quarterback that they're having second thoughts about, because we've got to see something new.
Football is no, you're right, Tom. No, football is so interdependent. It is really the ultimate team game. It's cliche. It's true, though, man. If my left tackle doesn't block and we've got a perfectly designed play, it gets blown up, it's over. If my receiver runs the wrong route and everybody else, 10 other guys do the right thing, play doesn't work. If my quarterback misses after everything is executed perfectly, he overthrows a guy by 5 yards. You need everybody to be working in lockstep, and when you have as many breakdowns as this team does across the board, really on both sides of the ball, you never get these instances where, a lot of guys did the right thing or won their individual battles. And so it's just easy for us to lock in on the quarterback, and he is not a solution. Our current quarterback should never see the field ever again. But what I would say is, again, I don't want to misconstrue my complaints as being solely about the quarterback. He is a big problem. We know the many reasons that he is. Again, I don't need to, make excuses or anything else. It's we've arrived at this place, time to move on. We could all lament the reasons we're at this place, but it doesn't matter anymore. You've just got to move on. It's like the time for the conversation is over.
Right,
We're moving on. And hey, listen, we've all worked with guys that are good guys and who otherwise you like. They just didn't do their job. At some point, you're like, I really don't care why you didn't do your job. You're just not doing the job.
Listen, watching these games, and I agree with you, it's not about him necessarily.
No.
And there have been games where he's lit it up and we've lost anyway. It didn't matter. In his
Right.
career, that has happened. Look at the NC State game on the road a couple years ago with Walt Bell, right? And he was throwing the ball down the field. Like, those things have happened. But it's just like we've been eating ramen every day for 2 years. Like, a different meal, please. I need something.
Yeah.
Maybe it's terrible, but you know what? If I call and I get the delivery driver on the way, I'm feeling like, all right,
a little something different.
let's spruce it up a little bit. And
yeah.
that's what people desperately need. This fan base needs is just something younger and something different.
Wagers for the week, Redemption Thursday style, TCU plus 11.5 versus Texas. Do you realize TCU is 6-2 against Texas since they joined the Big 12 there? They have really had Texas's numbers. Tejas has really struggled.
That has been, I remember when Mac Brown and the conversations before he was let go were happening, and it was, my man, how
You're
are you
being
letting
surpassed by TCU
in your backyard? Like, it's not like you're losing to Oklahoma when it comes to Big 12 titles left and right, and that's bad enough.
every year.
But now within your own state, even Texas Tech had a brief
Well,
moment there.
Houston
A&M
started
had
the
a brief
surge
moment.
and all
Houston,
that,
you're like,
yeah.
what the hell's wrong with
What are we
you?
doing
So
here?
that does not surprise me at all.
Yeah. And that might be against the number. I better double check that. I just know that you can really usually side with TCU. They have plenty of wins in the series, but especially against the number. They've really and it's always like Texas is a 2-touchdown favorite, and everybody goes, you guys sure about that? That doesn't seem to ever play out that way.
Never.
Oklahoma State, that is, bounced back with a win. It was a weird game for them, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to keep riding against Kansas every week until the number gets too big. I mentioned it last week. I thought Baylor would kill Kansas. They did. Game's not close in any way. Kansas is awful, and I think one of the things that happened was Kansas had a season that kind of surprised briefly. Les had a little bit of an impact. They were more buttoned up, and they got more out of the kids they had. But a lot of those kids moved on, and they're having to start rolling over their roster too, and you can't recruit to Kansas, so they don't have anybody. And they just look slow. So I'm going to keep betting against them. I'll give 21.5 to Kansas. Charlotte plus 6.5 against Florida Atlantic. Charlotte seems buttoned up. We'll see.
All right.
We'll see. I don't think they're a good team, Charlotte. I don't think they're a good team at all, but they're organized. So it'll be interesting to see.
Message received.
Georgia minus 6.5 against Auburn. Georgia looked bad at quarterback for 2.5 quarters. They made a change, and then they played well at quarterback. Their defense is going to be great every game this season. They play great defense, period. That doesn't change. I think they made the right switch there. They got a quarterback in there. They'll shut down Auburn. Give me Georgia and give the 6.5. I love their defense. Virginia is getting 28 against Clemson. Virginia looks competent. I'll take the 28. Clemson takes their foot off the pedal. 28's too many. I'll take it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Clemson does do that.
They do.
I would have thought they'd been, champing at the bit so much that
they won't do
they
that to
wouldn't
us,
stop.
by the way. They'll want to put a number on Florida State. Because,
they could try and stop and they'd still score.
Yeah, well, probably. And then finally, I picked Oklahoma to bounce back. They don't play defense at Oklahoma. Nobody does in the Big 12. But they can score, and I suspect they will. Iowa State's defense is not what they thought it was going to be. I think Oklahoma's angry. I'll take the Sooners and give the 7 here. In the NFL, I took Jacksonville getting 3 points. Jacksonville plays everybody pretty tough. And I feel like that I actually think they could win that game. Seattle minus 6.5 against the Dolphins. A lot of sharps will take the Dolphins this week, and I know why. Sometimes the public's right. I just can't. I just don't see it. I think Russ is going to do whatever he wants to do.
What's crazy is 2 Joe Public plays last week did not come through. Tennessee, Minnesota being one of them, and everybody was on Baltimore for Monday night.
But one of the public plays did happen, which was Green Bay over New Orleans, and I felt good about that. Well, maybe that wasn't as public. I just bet against Drew Brees, and I'm going to keep betting against Drew Brees. Looks like Vegas is on to Drew Brees. They've got Detroit hanging in there with him with the
under
number.
a touchdown. That's crazy.
4.5 points. They're like, I'm not sure who the better team is.
What they're looking at probably is Detroit's downfield offensive threat against what's been a porous secondary, one that takes a ton of penalties for New Orleans.
New England's getting 7 points. I like New England, and I like Carolina plus 3.5. You kind of convinced me that it's fun. That Carolina team, who I normally just loathe, They fight, and they're getting the hook. So that 3.5, I'll take it. They
That
fight.
offense looks okay. With Robbie Anderson and Samuel on the outside, they've got two downfield threats, so that opens up some things underneath. They found a way to use Davis the same way they use McCaffrey. I mean, it's not that McCaffrey's replaceable. Don't get me wrong, because he does some things that Davis never could do. The offense looked okay. They moved the ball all right against a pretty good Chargers defense last week.
They did, and actually, that Chargers team, who the Bucs play, and we'll talk about it. And we have talked about it. You look at the Chargers numbers. That's like if you just removed the name of the team and didn't tell anybody who was what, and just said, "Look at these numbers and tell me what you think of the Chargers." You'd be like, "How are they 1-2? They're in the top 10 of both offense and defense." And even the advanced numbers kind of like them. I got it. Rookie quarterback on the road against a stout defense doesn't seem like a fun day at the office, but I have a feeling the Bucs going to struggle to move the ball against that Chargers team.
They've struggled to move the ball against the Broncos in the second half, and that's not exactly a glowing endorsement. They struggled to move the ball against the Panthers in the second half, and what the hell is that? But I tell you one thing about Sunday's game, featuring the Chargers and the Bucs, that is one of the better uniform games of the weekend.
Buddy. That's going to be a sight to behold right there. Take a picture. Two great uniforms. It's just nice. I know it's small. I know we care more about the overriding play of the team as opposed to what they're wearing. But for so long, we were such a freaking eyesore in Tampa that to go along with not being good, it's just nice now that at least on a Sunday when you put a Bucs game on, doesn't matter, home or away, doesn't matter which combination they go with. You really can't do it wrong. They nailed it. They got it right across the board. It's I know we want to see a little bit more of the red and the pewter, but man, they got it right.
Well, it may be raining in Tampa on Sunday. We shall see, which might dampen that a little bit. No pun intended. But what's interesting to me for the Bucs is Leonard Fournette did not practice again today, and I just wonder. Listen, Leonard Fournette, I mean, he can get up over 20 miles an hour at that size. That's absurd, the top-end speed for him. I think they had, just a sneaking suspicion, they had something synergy-wise going with Ronald Jones and LaShawn McCoy before Leonard Fournette came in. It's not that you don't want to upgrade and be better by week 10, but they had it all kind of figured out. Here's my role. Here's your role. Here's what works for us in the offense. And now they've got to go back to the drawing board to figure out what Leonard does well and how does that integrate into the offense. The simplification, if Leonard can't go this weekend, might actually benefit the Bucs running game to a place where it's adequate. Just a theory. We'll see.
We'll see. I don't know that they're going to block Los Angeles all that well. We'll see. I maybe. I mean, we seem to struggle against anybody running the ball consistently. So, and it doesn't matter who they give it to. It'll be whoever's back there's going to catch a lot of passes this week, which means your boy LaShawn is going to get a lot of looks.
He does a better than adequate job of getting small and getting around the sticks. It's just, in the open field, he'll drop it.
Steelers-Titans, we mentioned it yesterday. They've made it official now. They are not going to play this football game. I will tell you that obviously it's precautionary, COVID reasons, and you got to do it. You can't have an outbreak, and they have reason to be concerned there. But as a fan, I'll tell you, I really hate that game got canceled because that's a good game. That's a good game. I wanted to see that game. It's funny. I've watched a lot of NFL, partly because I'm compelled that the Bucs are interesting again, and I'm trying to size us up compared to the rest of the league and where we're at and where we got to get to and who's really what. Plus, I bought that pass that you get every year, and it's good.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. You can get. I mean, listen, I'm not going out to a bar every weekend, so if I want to watch the games, I want to watch the games. I'm just going to tell you that
this weekend's a great candidate for a deck.
Oh, it is, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying against it. I'm just saying I want to be able to, and I actually really like going back and watching.
You don't anyway on Sundays.
No, typically I don't. I'm not a Sunday guy. I got to work on Monday, man. But it's. I love to be outside with the next guy, but I want to watch my games, and I also want to watch the condensed games. And that's worth the money right there. It's just the condensed games, none of that nonsense. It makes you realize how many commercials we deal with.
Yes, it's very inefficient to watch the NFL live.
Yeah, it really is. Especially if you want to be productive interacting with other human beings at any point, like members of your family.
But that's my argument for Red Zone not being a complete waste of time.
It's not.
Because, again, if you have all of these breaks and you're looking at key moments, and it's not like Red Zone waits till somebody crosses the 20-yard line. They'll give you context plays. If nobody's there, they'll give you the best team available typically. Although in years past, they really marry themselves to Bengals-Browns for whatever reason.
I don't know why, but they do.
And in the 4 o'clock window, Red Zone is as good as watching the condensed games because there's only 3 or 4 options, and they just pivot to whatever game is actually
I think you're right about
television.
the 4 o'clock hour. That's exactly right. It's boom, 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 boom. Yeah. No, not so bad. But I guess what I was getting at with that is that I'm locked in right now with the NFL. I'm feeling good about the NFL. I feel like I got a good handle on it. We'll see. I had a 4-1 week against the number last week. It's a tougher card this week, I think. I thought last week had some obvious jumps you could get on early. I really wanted to see that Titans-Steelers game. That's a physical game. You've got really, Ben's playing really well coming off the injury from a year ago. Roethlisberger looks good. That defense is as stout as they come. They run the ball.
So here's the cool thing, and it's not just because we're Buccaneers fans and we have the Buccaneers games on our radio dial, as Gene Deckerhoff would say, but in the next month and a half, certain weekends, you've got to watch the Bucs. You need to. They'll be in prime time, so it'll be easy. But there's a 4:25 window where the Bucs play the Packers. That's going to be really fun. The Bucs play the Rams, who have had a resurgence this year. The Bucs play the Chiefs, and they do that in Tampa in prime time. Are you kidding? 3 premier matchups coming up in the not-too-distant future for the Bucs to test their mettle against teams that they're going to be battling with for the right to win the NFC, go to the Super Bowl, whatever it is. That is fun.
I can't wait to watch the Bucs and the Chiefs. I mean, let's be honest, the Chiefs are your prohibited favorite, especially after dismantling Baltimore, to go back to the Super Bowl. And we love this defense. So you're going to get this defense against that offense and that quarterback, and you really find out what you are. The problem with that matchup, and we're getting out over our skis, if you will, because it's weeks away, is if the Bucs aren't running the ball more efficiently by that time, they have no chance to win that game. So you have got to find a way to get to it. I don't care if you throw first to get to it, but you better find a way to start running the ball because that's how you win against the Chiefs. You keep them off the damn field.
Well, and I tell you, on Monday, I felt like this was 2 good weeks for the Bucs coming up because you're playing a rookie quarterback at home, and then you're playing the Bears with Trubisky. But now it's changed a little bit. The more you look at the Chargers, the more dangerous they are for just an NFL weekend result where you go, oh, wow, any given Sunday. And then Foles fits that scheme. The Bears are interesting again because that defense didn't forget how to play football.
Defense is good, and they'll play. They'll play to an identity. You're not wrong about that. They'll play to an identity because they have one now. And Foles is, man, you said it. He runs that offense well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you think Philly thinks they made the wrong decision right about now? I know they do. Peterson's like, you got to be kidding me.
Well, and he's got to be pissed because his quarterback did look like a future superstar, and he's now a shell of himself. I know, it's frustrating. I'm interested. We're going to come up in here in a second. We're going to talk to our buddy, Dr. Joseph St. Germain, of course, Joey. And we do this every week. If you're new to it, DSG on DFS, right here on the Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Downs and St. Germain. That'll be coming up. He loves contrarian plays. He loves to point out matchups. He loves to point out little things that maybe we're not all thinking about that helps you out. And he does a good job with the research, so it'll be fun.
Well, especially early in the year. That makes a ton of sense. Because you don't really know. The NFL teams give you results, but how much data is that really to crunch? So go against the public because that's how Vegas has erected
all those buildings.
Las Vegas itself. That's how they rebuilt it. So
there are guys. I've brought it up time and again. It's amazing though. You can read really cool. Gambling's so mainstream now that you find articles on regular ESPN.com about it and other websites, and they'll just talk about the various strategies of these group pools that people are in, and how some people take, depending on a given year, they find a trend early, and then they'll bet all favorites, or the opposite. They'll bet all underdogs, and they don't even care what the matchup is. They just go straight down the line. Makes it easy. It's less stressful than you trying to analyze yourself. You're like, I don't care. Here are the numbers that say it's on my side. And they'll finish up for the weekend 58%, 61%. What you're doing is you're avoiding that catastrophe by nitpicking sides. Or like on one side you got a favorite, on the next side you got an underdog. Then you're going to go with a favorite over here. Then the underdog, and then let's just say it's a disaster. You analyzed it poorly on all 5, and you didn't have any consistency. Whereas on the weekend, if you just go, I'm going all underdogs. Right now they're finishing at 56%. I'm doing it. Or all overs. The over's hitting at 60%. I'm going all overs.
Yeah. Well, here's where it is now, and I know this isn't on the rundown for Joey, but he sent us a little nugget.
I love this.
This is unbelievable.
Great. This is unbelievable.
So these are against the spread trends. This is Vegas doing what it does. Okay, so away teams, right? So far, 24 and 24 hit 50%. Home teams, 24 and 24, obviously, right? Favorites and underdogs, an even split, 24 and 24. Away favorites, 8 and 8. Away underdogs, 16 and 6. And you know what that means? It goes the other way for home favorites and home underdogs. 50% in every single one of those categories. If you're looking for a leg up, you cannot find it because there is no trend, not yet. And that's 3 weeks of NFL football.
That's what makes my 4-1 so impressive last week, Tom. I really got to tell you. It's really
I took
what
a
it
2
did.
and 3, and I was like, all right, survived. I survived this weekend.
It's the Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. a full-service market research firm located right here in Tallahassee since 1981. Downs and St. Germain Research conducts surveys and focus groups for local, state, and national organizations. Researching to win your fantasy weekend is fun, but researching to strengthen your organization, well, that's a winning strategy. Online at dsg-research.com. Dr. Joseph St. Germain joins me now. Hey, I want to do this first as we start, Joey. My condolences, man. I was going through the list of Minnesota sports, Minneapolis sports, and the disappointments over the years. And, of course, the catalyst for this was the Twins bowing out in a way that, is typical these days. But it is unimaginable that a baseball team, and we all know the odds of baseball being what they are, that you could lose 18 straight times. Whether you're a good team or a bad team, it's just improbable. But This one hurts in a weird way. 9-23 on the road were the Astros this year. They had a losing record for the season. The Twins were 24-7 at home. They scored a grand total of 2 runs and got swept.
Yeah, the playoffs lasted 27 hours for us Twins fans, and I guess it goes to show. We're going to talk about numbers today, but sports are about more than numbers. And once it gets in your head, I have to imagine that streak is in every Twins player's mind as they're playing the playoffs now.
Yeah, and I saw where Baldelli said after game 1, well, most of the guys here haven't been part of that. I can't think that they're thinking about it. Oh, no, Rocco, they're thinking about it. There's no way they're not thinking about it.
Totally agree.
Yeah, and it's frustrating, I got to believe, but at the same time, it is proof again that baseball is pretty random. And you can't really rely on whatever it was that transpired before those games are played. So speaking of which, that's why we do what we do, and it's why you do what you do. Research, we look at the numbers, we give ourselves the best possible chance. So let's do this. Let's talk about what we're looking at with Daily Fantasy for this week, opportunity versus production. You want to talk about Logan Thomas?
I do. To both the guys I'm going to talk about are probably more relevant to DraftKings than they are FanDuel. The pricing on DraftKings is a little bit tighter, meaning you have to get the more obscure players. I'm looking at Logan Thomas. The best indicator for production is opportunity. Logan Thomas is 4th in routes run, 2nd in targets, and 3rd in red zone targets amongst tight ends, but he's only 10th in catches, 20th in yards, and 17th in points. Normally, when it's that lopsided, the production is going to come. Now, don't get me wrong, Haskins has been a big part of that issue, but in general, you show me that opportunity and I can get him at a cheap price. I just want him in my lineups.
Fair enough. And then the other way to score here and do well for yourself is to find specific matchups that are beneficial. What's yours for this week?
Yeah, we've talked already, and when we talk about football, it's a matchup league. And the Raiders play Buffalo this week, and I'm going to probably be playing Hunter Renfrow. Buffalo's got a good defense, but the way to beat them is in the slot. And Ruggs and Edwards are probably going to be out for the Raiders, so Renfrow is going to dominate those slot routes. And on average, the Bills this year are giving up 8 catches for 99 yards and almost a touchdown to slot receivers. So again, it's an opportunity to go against a good defense, but this is where they're vulnerable, so I'm going to throw them in there.
Segueing to NFL here and in terms of picks and all that good stuff, but I'm curious, potential reasons for the overs. If you guys out there listening are sporting guys or gals, as we like to reference, you'll note a huge amount of the tickets coming in on the over, 60% I think it is. Why is that, Joey? What are you seeing?
Well, I took a deep dive into this because I've noticed Vegas is adapting. 8 of their spreads are 52 points or more for this week, and that is just way higher than usual. And we looked through some common opinions as to why that pace is up. People are just running more plays, so that's going to lead to more points. Without the big crowds, there's a greater ability to audible, which we think has a little bit. But the biggest factor, according to some of the studies I've seen, is penalties. Holding calls are way down, offensive holding, that is, and defensive pass interference is way up. So Vegas has caught up to that. So the point is, I wouldn't just keep jamming those overs just because they've hit at 60%. But there's also a chance we might have an opportunity if they start calling holding a little bit tighter to hit some unders. Overall, Jeff, we've talked before, when do you follow a trend? And my answer to that is always, can you explain the why? And these are the reasons why I think. So if they adapt how they call holding, etc., unders might be a play going forward. But my big thing is don't just keep hitting the overs because you think it's going to stay, because Vegas has changed.
As a fan of the game and the aesthetics of the game, I hope they don't adjust to the holding calls, because you recall 2 years ago they were calling holding at such an alarming rate that many of the league stars, including Tom Brady, called it out on social media, saying this is unwatchable. We can't watch these games anymore. So I'm hoping they don't do that. They've always been, in the last 7 years, certainly, where the emphasis has been on offense, they've really called interference very tightly. We know now that a lot of third downs and drives are sustained because refs bail out offensive players time and again with the slightest of touch down the field, and they want more points.
Yeah, I totally agree, and that's why you wonder if this message got to the refs and like, hey, we're not going to call this as tight. I'm not doing a conspiracy theory, but it's also not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, every year the league has a point of emphasis. They'll even say that publicly. Now, they don't always get into the specifics, but they'll mention that this year we're going to call this closer. This year there's an emphasis on that. You got a game that you like this week? The numbers seemed right to you. Is it an over? Is it an under? Is it a side?
Yeah, I'm going to kind of focus on contrarian plays for those in pools, just because you have to get a lot right. But when you're getting them right and the other people in your pool aren't getting them, it's a way to kind of really kind of catch up on the field. I'm looking at Miami plus 6.5. I would love that it hits 7. The reason being is the world has anointed Russell Wilson as MVP, and I don't blame them. What he's done in 3 weeks has been insane. What isn't being discussed is their defense, who is been terrible. That while that offense has been great, their defense is basically allowing the same yards per play. And in addition, there's a chance that winds are going to be above 15 miles an hour. When it's above 15, that's when it kind of tends to be the threshold where it affects the passing game. So I'm hoping for a close one. Again, I'm just starting my research, but I kind of start with these contrarian plays for the pool. So I'll be looking at Miami, especially if I can get 7.
If you somehow, and that number goes through 7 to 7.5, or you tease it or do whatever you want with it, and you get that win, Joey, that should be what you lead with next week, because most people are going to look at this Dolphins-Seattle matchup and say, no way, no how, I'm not doing it, but I get it, and you gave us the logic, which I always appreciate. Brother, it's fun. We'll talk again next week.
I enjoyed it. Take care.
All right, take care. That's Dr. Joseph St. Germain. Of course, that's all brought to you by Downs and St. Germain Research, a full-service market research firm. They're located right here in Tallahassee, as we tell you every week. 1981 is when they started here in Tallahassee. Downs and St. Germain Research conducts surveys, focus groups for local, state, and national organizations. Researching to win fantasy football is a lot of fun. Researching to strengthen your organization, that's a winning strategy. Online at dsg-research.com. When I tune in the Padres, who were so much fun during the regular season and then get hit with the injuries to Lamet and Mike Clevenger off the roster, they're almost out of pitching. Probably should have pitched Zach Davies instead of sorry-ass Paddock, who gives you very little chance to win and immediately sucked again last time, and put them down in an 0-1 situation to the Cardinals, whom I loathe.
That guy's easy to root against. Paddock. He's a meathead.
He's not any good either. And he was 4-0 before you could blink. Thanks for playing. Sorry ass. But yeah, that's it may be that the team that was the most fun to watch in baseball this year has gone in 2 games. That would hurt. That wouldn't be a good thing, especially to that Cardinals team, which is whatever. But that's
what the Cardinals do.
Well, I guess I bring that up, but we did obviously speculate, because it's just baseball, that weird things would happen. That teams that were good in the regular season, such an abbreviated sample size, are going to get beat. That Yankees-Cleveland game was ridiculous. And it can never, ever take that amount of time. Good Lord, but it did. I know rain delays, you can't help it.
Didn't pay attention at all. I'm starting to get sleep now because the crack addiction that is the Stanley Cup Finals and playoffs is over. It's really nice to, like, at 8:30, look at the TV and say, hey, there's no hockey on us.
Yeah, I don't have to worry about it.
I can go to bed right now.
You could go to bed. You could watch a movie. You could watch another game of something that is not emotionally unsettling.
I'm kind of sportsed out for the middle of the week, and I'm glad that there's not a knockdown drag out on Thursday Night Football for the NFL.
Never.
No.
There never is. Now, next week,
our Bucks are playing next week, so I'd have to get locked back in for that. But nope, Broncos and Jets, buddy, we'll have it right here on 97.9 ESPN Radio. But, yeah, it's going to be another early night in the Lang household.
That game. Well, Adam Gase is now your odds-on favorite to get fired first. And now they have a bunch of injuries. The one thing the Jets could do a year ago was stop the run. Now they're 24th in the league against the run. They may not win a game. Like, if you're looking at the Jets, let's do this. Let's have some fun with this. I'm kind of curious. Let's pull up Jets' schedule. You want to do that? WWLs. Wins.
All right. How you doing?
Losses.
Damn it! We lost! We f***ing super lost, man!
Well, do we triumph? Where doth thou fall? For the Jets. Are you kidding me?
Hey, we wouldn't be an ESPN station if we didn't do this, right?
Well, first of all, it wouldn't be the Jeff Cameron Show, more importantly, if we didn't do this. We created W's and L's, and it's a fun feature, and we can apply it to anybody we want. Arkansas football, the Jets, you name it. We do it all the time. We did it. Hell, one year we did it with Wisconsin. We've done it with everybody. Oregon State, oddly, just out of the blue. So, okay, so far, if you don't know, the Jets' level of incompetence is growing by the day, and they're beat up. They lost to the Bills 27-17. They lost to the 49ers 31-13. They lost to the Colts 36-7 through 2 pick sixes in that game, by the way. That'll hurt your feelings. And now tonight, the 0-3 New York Jets take it on the Denver Broncos. This game in New York doesn't matter, no fans. 8:20 kickoff for your Thursday night Color Rush game of the week. Broncos down to their third-string quarterback. Jets are the Jets. The question mark is, do the New York football Jets, not Giants, do the Jets win a game? A game. A single game.
This is a big one tonight. Big chance.
If they don't beat the third-string quarterback for the Denver Broncos tonight, you're hard-pressed to find a place where victory is theirs. Next week, it's the Cardinals getting their ass kicked. Week after that, on the road to Los Angeles to take on the Chargers, getting their ass kicked. Then they host the Bills, getting their ass kicked. Then they're on the road to the Chiefs.
Oh man.
Then they're home to the Patriots. No. All right, next chance to win a game. If you don't win tonight.
We're like at Thanksgiving already.
Yeah, if you don't win tonight as a Jets fan, your next best chance is against the Miami Dolphins on the road, November the 15th. Put it on your calendar. Possible win?
I don't know.
I wouldn't pick them.
No, Tua's going to be playing.
They won't be favorites.
Slingshot Tua.
It's a weird deal with scheduling because they play on the 15th, the Dolphins, then they have a bye week, and then they play the Dolphins. Stupid. That's 11:29. Then they take on the Raiders. They ain't beating the Raiders. Ooh, then they're on the road to the Seahawks. Ooh. God, dog. That's just cruel and unusual. Then they play the Rams. They're not going to beat the Rams. They do host the Browns, penultimate game of the year. I guess maybe.
If the Browns are combustible and checked out, you've got a chance.
But they're not right now, and the Jets can't block them.
They're playing hard. Cleveland is currently.
Jets close out the year on the road in New England.
So we're already at the end of the season?
Yeah, we're done. I went through.
That's it?
That's it.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm telling you, if they don't win tonight, they may not win again.
Well, now we have a reason to tune in.
I just gave you the compelling reason. Will it happen? New York Jets football tonight. Got to get a win. It could be the only win of the year. You don't get it. Well, say hello to Trevor in New York. Time to move on from Sam Darnold just like that. Although I don't think he's nearly as bad as the situation looks right now. He did some things okay last year. They're just a mess.
But Trevor would be better.
Oh, sure. Probably. That's a toughie. You know, we were talking about it with Joey St. Germain earlier. There's a guy. He's a Minnesota sports fan, diehard fan. It goes back to the 70s. And he put out something on Twitter yesterday, and I came across it because I was looking for other stretches of all-time ineptness from franchises. And, you know, I documented the Bucs run there, you know, about early 80s on. But we were looking at just some of the most sports tragedies in terms of wins and losses, an amount of time between good things happening to cities or franchises of all time. And I just never realized, I mean, you got to go back, Tom, 1991, the Twins win the World Series. Mm-hmm. No team of theirs in Minnesota since has competed for anything. The Vikings, the Twins, and the Wild, they're awful.
T-Wolves.
People forget they're in the league. The T-Wolves, I mean, nothing.
Yeah.
They got nothing.
Yeah, they had the memorable loss to the Falcons in 98.
Well, that's the missed field goal from a guy who hadn't missed a kick all year long.
Then they had a pretty good team get blown out by the Giants in the 2000 playoffs as well. And
then
they had Brett Favre in the pick and
they've got a lot of weird tragedies.
They got to the championship game of their own conference in bid.
Yeah, well, they also missed a 27-yard field goal at home against the Seahawks.
That's correct.
Point blank. Walsh, right? Wasn't that the kicker?
No, that's their kicker.
Currently. It's the same guy.
No, I don't think it was him.
I think it was.
I'll check. All right.
Double check it. I think he missed point blank. Whoever it was missed point blank. I thought it was him. Because that's what made it all the more, well, any professional kicker missing a 27-yard field goal is going to hurt your feelings, but he's a good kicker. Good God, man. It's. I just think about it in terms of cities dealing with things. Tough times.
It was Walsh. They got Bailey now, though, so I'm thinking that Bailey was a current kid. No, Blair Walsh got the boot.
It was Blair Walsh, yeah.
He didn't stick around.
Point blank. I'll never forget the announcing team. I was listening to it in the car. That guy. And to move on to the next round of the playoffs, they'll send Blair Walsh out for a chip shot 27-yard field goal, and it was freezing cold. I remember that.
It was like 10.
Yeah. The snap, the hole, he missed it left. It's not even close. The Viking season is over. You could just hear silence. You hear the fans.
Yeah, because it was Gopher Stadium. It was outdoors.
It was crazy. He was so excited about the chip shot field goal. The snap, the hold, he missed it left. It's not even close. The game's over. Because remember, he pulled it straight left.
I do. Yeah, I was at the MGM Sportsbook. Place went nuts.
Tough days. Let's do this. Let's
the
get
number
to
was assured, but if you picked winners, and a couple of people did, you had people who were watching. I believe
out the building.
I believe Green Bay and Washington was the next game that day. You had people wasted within 30 minutes because they just pulled off the stunner of stunners, and they were watching Rodgers just going, "Rodgers!" Yeah! All right. Seahawks.
They were loving it. This brought to you by Wood and Glass, a family-owned and operated business serving Tallahassee and the Big Bend area since 1945. They are Tallahassee's first family and glass replacement, highly respected for their quality of installation, both residential and commercial. Wood and Glass, 222-5781. That's 222-5781.
It's time for, how you say, with the pitching, probables?
Doot, 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 doot. Aforementioned Cardinals Padres tonight, 7:08. Adam Wainwright trying to turn back the clock. Zach Davies going to pitch for the Padres. He's been the steadiest Padres pitcher this season, and you lose Dinelson, you lose Lamet, you lose Clevenger. Tough times to go into the playoffs with that many guys out. We'll see if Davies steadies it and gives him a shot. Brewers, Dodgers. Brandon Woodruff goes tonight for the Brewers. Coming off the best start of his career, a 108-pitch gem against the Cardinals. Struck out 10 and 8 scoreless. Okay. Probably feeling it. Clayton Kershaw goes for the Dodgers. That's traditionally you got a chance. He had a disappointing 4-inning start against the Angels. His postseason struggles are, of course, well documented, but doesn't seem likely he's going to throw 2 clunkers in a row. We'll see.
Over under 4 2/3 for Clayton Kershaw.
Over. He'll pitch well. He's actually had some starts in the postseason where he did pitch well. We just forget them.
Oh, he has, but he's also diminishing. He's getting older.
He is. I didn't realize. I went and looked it up. It doesn't seem like – remember when he signed that deal after being so electrifying at such a young age and so dominant? He signed a $100+ million contract, and I think he was like 20. He was 20. You look now, God, that guy's been in the league a little while.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
He has made a gob of money.
He and Bumgarner have had wars for about 10 years. I know what Madison's turned into, but they pitched any time that we did probables for Dodgers and Giants. It was Kershaw, Bumgarner.
Yeah, that's true. Good work out of you. Good work, Matthew. Thanks to everybody for listening. We appreciate you. We'll be back with you tomorrow, Libations Friday. What do we have?
Scuttlebuck's coming up next.
I always forget that because we do Scuttlebucks early. I just forget that it's waiting in the wings, baby, on a Thursday night. There. It's really good content.
Far
good
better
show.
than the game that airs starting at 8 o'clock tonight.
Which we'll also have.
But we'll have it.
Way to sell it, Tom.
For you Jets and Broncos fans out there.
Oh, man.
Ooh.
Jam, but just